Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new edition of the College Football Smoke Break Podcast as we enter a new week and getting down to the nitty-gritty of the college football schedule as we are into week number 12 at this point, and that means just 2 weeks, 3 including this weekend of the regular season remaining. And man, oh man, a lot going on, a great year so far, but feels like we're just on the verge of things really getting wacky and crazy here down the stretch. Hope you're having a good week. Please hit that like and subscribe to support the channel. And if you enjoy a little bit of what we do here on the channel so that we can enjoy doing more, maybe eventually. But here with you on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm Craig Smoak, joined as always behind the scenes by Garrett Ross. This is the Smoke Break, talking college football for just a few minutes so you can listen on your smoke break or while you're running errands or whatever it may be. So thank you for joining us when you do and however you do on whatever platform. But here to talk, first things first, about some coaching news, and not coaching news as in another firing, a bit of a quieter weekend in comparison to what we've seen over the last month, but an absolutely bizarre story coming out of Baton Rouge, the latest on the Brian Kelly saga. The LSU Tigers, of course, firing Brian Kelly a couple of weeks back and making it very clear at the time that he was not meeting the standard of LSU football, was, just quite simply not winning enough, although not said exactly in that language. Pretty much that's what they said and what the public was told when it came to the firing of Louisiana governor, and put his foot down and said that, he was going to prevent LSU from making the same types of mistakes when it comes to their coaching contracts and buyouts. And he talked a big game like most politicians do. But you wondered, okay, what exactly are you going to do about it? And certainly with his outspokenness, it promoted this feeling of some concern about the leadership of LSU, what they're doing in terms of this Brian Kelly firing, and what all this will look like on the other side. And the more he talked, the more I saw some people, like one of my co-hosts, Paul Catalina, talk about how this will run off any potential head coaches for LSU moving forward. And I disagreed with him. I said, politics are going to be involved at any university that you're going to be a part of. And yes, Louisiana politics are a bit crazier, dirtier, corrupt. I think that's all very fair to say given history, and that all pretty much still stands today to some extent. But I don't think that it's going to be an issue where John Summerall or Lane Kiffin or somebody like that will not come and take the massive payday and take on the massive prestige and history and all that comes with that LSU job. Like, yes, there's a wacky governor that you're going to have to hear from time to time, but ultimately, no matter what he's barking about right now, it's not going to really affect the LSU job as it pertains to you. And I still feel that way in general, but I do feel differently about the LSU job now after the story that broke last night involving the university and a lawsuit now filed by Brian Kelly's attorneys against the LSU Board of Supervisors, according to a report from ESPN's Dan Wetzel. It says LSU has now taken a position where it is saying it did not ever formally terminate Brian Kelly as their head coach. And they are now seeking to fire Kelly for cause, despite never saying anything in regards to a for cause firing at any point over the last several days since he's been fired, nearly 2 weeks now at this point. The school is seeking to fire Kelly for cause because they don't want to pay the $54 million that they owe him. Now, they also reportedly offered him reduced buyout amounts, to which he rejected those offers because why would you take less money if you're owed $54 million? Well, you take it if you're going to search for another job, but no indications that Kelly's doing that just yet. Right now, he's making it very clear he wants all $54 million. And anybody you see pushing back on him wanting all of his money from the contract that he was proposed and that he agreed and signed, I think you're licking boots. I think you are somebody that probably sides with authority more often than not, or you're just an LSU homer, because Brian Kelly is usually always the bad guy, but in this case, he's not, and he has every right to take every cent, no matter how many games he won or lost, because that's the contract that LSU ultimately gave him, and now they're trying to crawfish their way out of paying the money that they agreed to pay him and the contract that they presented to him. So LSU is now, long story short, trying to wriggle their way out of the contract, out of the buyout money. And Brian Kelly's team is calling their bluff, filing a lawsuit against the school. And there's a lot of details involved in the 48-page filing, but I cannot wait to see where this goes. I'm usually not a messy bee like some people, although I do like drama from time to time. This very much seems like it will be messy, but the type of mess that I am very interested in seeing. If LSU were to win a lawsuit like this, I think it sets an awful precedent for coaches moving forward. But one thing I know for sure is this, but if Brian Kelly wins, then that's obviously a very interesting story. And LSU is going to come out on the other side of this looking horrific. Either way, I think they come off looking terrible. And I do think that unlike having a governor that's loud and boisterous and talking a lot of nonsense or whatever, well, I don't think that's really too much of a repellent. I do think that firing a coach for not winning enough and then turning around and trying to not pay the buyout money that you initially offered is an awful look for that school, no matter how they want to spin it. And that's all you can do now is spin it. And yes, that is the type of thing that if I am John Summerall or Lane Kiffin and I have other options and schools that are willing to pay me what they promised, I might be more inclined to go to those schools. Now, not every job's LSU, but Florida is on par with LSU. A job like that, if I'm splitting between the two, I think LSU just made my decision for me. I'll take the other job and get what I'm owed. So very interesting stuff. Very wild turn of events when LSU could just kind of had gone about their business, paid that man his money, and then gone and hired a head coach. But I think the problem is that they don't quite have all that money and don't want to spend $54 million on buying out a coach for not winning enough and then going and spending the money to go hire new staff. Understandable. But guess what, guys? That's the choice that you made when you decided to fire Brian Kelly. This is a very simple story on the surface. I am really curious how they try to spin the for-cause firing when they've publicly been talking about how he didn't win enough. And there are quotes and there are people on the record having said as much over the last couple of weeks. So just wild stuff there. Normally we just talk about games, but that is more interesting than a lot of the results from this past weekend. Now, as far as this past weekend, and that is a story that we will touch on moving forward, not only on this podcast, but certainly on 365 Sports YT. Go check us out on YouTube Monday through Friday, live from 3 o'clock to 5:30, but available 24/7. And please go over there and hit those like and subscribe buttons as well, as we're getting close to 70,000 on 365 Sports YT. But we will certainly be talking more about the Brian Kelly story moving forward. Now, as far as this past weekend goes, had potential for a lot of upsets, a lot of calamity, and there still was, despite there not being a wide range of upsets. This is what we do know from the first college football playoff rankings, with the next set of rankings to drop later on tonight. Coming out of this past weekend, number 2 Indiana barely hanging on after that win on the road against Penn State. Valiant effort from the Nittany Lions. Definitely a trap that the Hoosiers walked into, but they do survive thanks to one of the greatest, most clutch touchdown catches of all time, Omar Cooper in the back of the end zone from Fernando Mendoza. That play was really all Cooper. Cannot get any closer than that, and it is a play that will live in Indiana Hoosier infamy. It's just a question of not if it will live in infamy, but just to what degree. Because is it a play that set them up for a Big Ten championship? Is it a play that set them up for a national championship? It very well could have been. It is in the lore and will forever remain there, but where it ultimately sits will be determined by what they do the rest of the way. But thanks to him, they are still unbeaten. So the top, 6 teams from last week's rankings, all able to win, as Texas A&M also takes care of Mizzou 38-17, just crushed the Tigers on the road. A&M looks like a ball of knives. Mike Elko's got them in the right mentality right now, and it seems like A&M's maybe finally figured things out. So really nice win for them on the road against number 22 Missouri. So they stay pat, and that's your number 2 and your number 3 teams that survived the big game settings where you're playing somebody that maybe can knock you off. Meanwhile, looking around the rest, you had Alabama with a 20-9 win over messy LSU. This one wasn't as much of an Oregon-Iowa situation or an A&M Mizzou situation because of what's going on at LSU. They are not in the top 25. They are sitting there with a lame duck head coach and Frank Wilson. All due respect to him, but he's not going to be the guy moving forward unless maybe he'll have to be because they can't afford anybody else. But nevertheless, a little bit of a close game early on, but ultimately Ty Simpson and the Tide pull away, and a nice win there. Really impressed by Ty Simpson the more I watch him. Bama continues on for their redemption after losing the first game to Florida State inexplicably. They've been great ever since, and so they're able to keep on going as well. But we did see some shakeup as a Texas Tech there at number 8 defeating number 7 BYU. So the Red Raiders will at worst be number 7 in the rankings dropped later on Tuesday evening. And we'll see where BYU goes, but they were the highest ranked playoff seed to lose. Do they tumble all the way out? I would certainly hope not, with just taking their first loss and taking it to the number 8 team in the country on the road. But you did lose by 22, and your 7 points didn't come until late in that game. So we'll see how the committee views what was ultimately a non-competitive game in some ways, and that will be a ding on BYU, even though it was their first loss. And really, that's what you had from last week as far as the major games go. A&M, huge win for them. Do they stay pat at number 3? Probably. Indiana, incredible. Omar Cooper catch. I mean, that's the Omar Cooper catch game right there. That win against Penn State, that will keep things rolling for them. Alabama over LSU. So there's 2, 3, and 4 that all win big-time matchups, and as well as number 8 there in Texas Tech. So really fun week, but save a lot of spoilers and craziness, although you did get some shakeup later on down in the rankings as Virginia lost their second game of the year, the number 14 Cavaliers. So they take one on the chin. Louisville at number 16 takes their third loss. So they're pretty much dwindling out of the mix now at this point as well. And there's some others that will be interesting to talk about. Missouri, obviously, now with their third loss, you can chuck them on out of there, although they were kind of on the outside a little bit further back looking in anyways. But there you go. A&M, Tech, Oregon, Indiana, Alabama, all winners. And in the case of Oregon and Indiana and A&M, 3 major road wins. So big test passed by those teams. Very much looking forward to this weekend slate. And that's what we'll talk about on the next episode of the College Football Smoke Break, is the Week 12 action, the ranked matchups, and, of course, my picks as well. But we had the potential for a lot more trauma than we actually got, but there was still plenty of it. I mean, just because Indiana didn't get upset doesn't mean there was a lack of drama. That was you could feel that through the television screen, especially as that thing got into the waning stages, and I'm still just marveling at that incredible catch. And Oregon touched on that, but certainly looked like they were in the crosshairs of an Iowa special, even though Iowa's been scoring a lot more points here this year. An 18-16 game and cold driving rain. It was the perfect setting for the Hawkeyes to pull the upset, but Oregon and Dante Moore there with some late game drive and magic, able to keep the Ducks there well within the top 10 conversation and the playoff conversation and Big Ten championship conversation. I like Oregon, but I still want to see Ohio State and Indiana. As far as the Big Ten title game goes in the Big 12, BYU takes a lick, but they're still in good position with just their first loss to perhaps rematch Tech here in about a month's time. We will see on that. Would it be a lot different neutral site? I certainly think BYU could play a bit better, but I definitely think Texas Tech, just eyeball testing it, although I kind of cringe at that sometimes. But watching that game, looking at the numbers, and really watching them going into this game, I wasn't totally surprised by that outcome, and I would pick Texas Tech again in a rematch. SEC championship, A&M in the driver's seat right now. Alabama looking really good, but teams like Texas, maybe even Oklahoma, will still have something to say about that down the stretch as well. And the ACC is a total mess with Virginia now taking a loss, as well as Louisville. I didn't mention them, but Louisville taking a loss as well this past weekend, one of those shakeup games. This is going to be a fun final 3 weeks. I know not everybody's in love with the current format, but I think the 12 team is perfect for a year like this year. I think it's more, you may not like the parity, and that I can understand. But if you're going to have parity, it's much better to have a 12-team playoff than to have a 14 playoff. I think we can agree on that. And if not, I'd love to debate that. But if you're going to have parity and a lot of teams that can beat other teams, then we don't need just simply 4 teams. If this was old school, then yeah, 4 teams fit the non-parity era. It does not fit the parity era. And it definitely feels like that's the era we are very much now in at this point. Next time, we'll talk about the latest CFP rankings plus preview the biggest games of the weekend, and I'll give my picks. Until next time, please hit that like and subscribe button here on the College Football Smoke Break channel and over on 365 Sports YT. We'll be talking much more about all these games, everything else college football, and of course that Brian Kelly story as well. Until next time, I'm Craig Smoak.